Welcome to my Silver Art Masterclass. In this video, I'm pulling back the curtain and revealing every step of my process for creating custom silver art pieces, from the spark of inspiration to the final polished masterpiece. Whether you're curious about designing unique creations, learning the secrets of sandcasting, or seeing how AI and 3D printing can blend with traditional craftsmanship, this video has it all. So stick around, because by the end you'll have all the tools and the knowledge to bring your own custom designs to life. I've broke it down in chapters and all the timestamps are down below in the description, so you can jump about and revisit the parts you need to. So let's get started. So first up, and number one, is going to be obviously the idea. What type of artwork do I want to create? Now, I suppose artists, everyone's different, and it's the same for artists. Now, I take inspiration, as you can see here, from the internet.
Are you on that internet, yeah? On that internet?
I use Pinterest quite a bit. I can scroll through, and as you can see here, there's some wonderful images. I just type in cool art for the search thing, and you can see just some wicked stuff. Not something that I want to translate over to silver as such, but it gives me a flavour or a vibe or a design I want. Look at this guy. He'd look cool on a bar, wouldn't he? You know, I just take inspiration from here, there and everywhere. Another place I take inspiration from is talking to people. I think this is a real good one. Stacker Social, Discord group. I mean, again, you kind of get to see which way the wind's blowing, what people are talking about, what pickups they've had, what they've bought. And it kind of like, in the silver pouring sense, if you do want to go down that line and think about selling the end product, it is useful to see what trends, what's happening. I go through, I look at other silver pourers, see what they're up to. That can be a good place to start, inspiration. But you don't want to, you only want to take it as inspiration. You don't want to go, oh, they've done a, I don't know, it could be anything. No, they've done a bar like this, so I'm going to do a bar like that. No, you got to put some innovation into it and change it up and make it your own, put your own style on it. Because I see too many pours that all look the same, to be honest, and some you find hard to distinguish between who's actually made it. At Silverpunk, I want to be able to stand out. I want people to look at it and go, "That's a Silverpunk piece," and that's that's the whole idea. You know, I talk to people, and obviously you get chatting, and something could come. You know, I could just be, I don't know, I could be in the shed doing a sandcast, and another idea will come. So it's just the idea part. It very much. I don't want to sound all spiritual and cuckoo, but it just happens. It's just like a mad thought out of nowhere. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. And then you trial and error and you start to do it and see whether it'll work. You play about with a few ideas, and if you think, yeah, I like that, you take it forward onto the next process. Right, number two is image creation. I'm going to show you how I use AI, what tools I use to generate the initial design and the artwork. So the first thing you got to consider, the first thing you got to think about is what actually AI you're going to use. Now, this is ChatGPT. You've got ChatGPT. You could use Microsoft Copilot. This is Copilot. Ideogram. I mean, some cool bits there that people have already been generating, as you can see. You've got Leonardo AI. Look at him. Look at that. But there's lots to choose out there, and what I'd say is get a feel for them, have a mess about. All of them you can get free little accounts on, so just have a play and see what you feel comfortable with. For me, I use all these four that I've just showed you here. I use all of those, and you kind of, with experience, you kind of get a feel to which one will work best with what kind of thing you're trying to make. I mean, oh, look at him. That's a cool bit there, isn't he? Look at that school guy. That looks so cool on a bar. But yeah, so I'd play about. But for this run through, I'm going to use the one that I use mainly, and this is ChatGPT. And I'm going to run you through step by step the actual prompts I use to generate my images. Because what you got to bear in mind, you've always got to think of the final outcome. The final outcome is a piece of silver. So that's always got to be in the back of our mind. We could generate some fantastic images, but if they aren't looking right, if they don't come out cool in the final piece of art, the final silver pour, then it's all a waste of time. It's all been for nothing. Now, onto the actual image creation. As always, as we work through this process, we've got to always have our eye on the end goal, on the end item we're trying to make. So with that in mind, the image has to translate. We need to make a depth map. So the image we create has to be able to be transferred into a depth map. And what I found to work for me is if I make it almost look like a carving or a relief. You know, when you see museums, you see like the stone carvings of like the old Romans and stuff like that. And that's called a bas relief. And I've found that that works the best. So what I actually do, I just type in a very simple prompt into ChatGPT, and I actually then get ChatGPT to actually create the prompt I want to use to create the image. So this is what I start with. This is my starting point. For context, you're a top 3D sculptor and graphic designer. You do most of your work creating 3D style images, which looks like carved alabaster. So with that'll kind of get us the look that we're looking for. Can you please create me an image using these keywords: bas relief, carved alabaster, neutral colours, neutral shadows. As for subject matter, I would like a, and then you fill in the blank. So for the idea bit, I think a skull. We'll go for a skull, because if you're into silver pouring, everyone loves a skull design, don't we? So I'm just gonna make it very general to start with. As for subject matter, I would like a face-on portrait of a skull. Right, now I'm going to actually now copy and paste that, and we're going to plop that into ChatGPT. But before we do that, I'm going to give it another prompt. I'm going to ask it to make me an image generation prompt. So can you please make me a image generation prompt based on this, please? And now all I'm going to do is just stick that in there, and then we'll see what it comes up with. This is what it's give us. Create a face-on portrait of a skull crafted in bas relief style, resembling a carved alabaster sculpture. Utilise neutral colours and neutral shadows to enhance the three-dimensional effect and highlight the intricate details of the carving. So what we're going to do now, we'll copy that, and we'll go over to the image generator, and we're just going to pop that straight in, and we'll see what it shows us. We'll see what it comes up with. So there we go. Pretty cool starting point. I'm sure you'll agree. We've got the skull. It's done everything we asked. So now we've just got to go on and modify it and get to the exact image, something that I really want. And I've asked it to do it another few times, because what I like to do, once it's done the original one, is you see here, I just ask it and another, and it gives us this one, which I like a bit better, to be honest. I like this kind of scroll work, this Rococo type scroll work. The skull's pretty much the same, but that'd work well on a bar. I think that'd look cool. And then we got that one. That wasn't quite as good, is it? That doesn't work. And then you've got a plain one. So you can keep on going and keep on trying. So I'm going to ask it to do one more and another. And this is just using that first initial prompt. We haven't changed anything else. You can ask it to do other things. I might say it on a, I don't know, flame background, a fiery background or something, or, you know, whatever your imagination, isn't it? It's whatever you can come up with. And this is how I come up with my designs. I hope you're finding this useful. This is what I do. So as you can see, we had a little bit of a wobble there, and it sometimes does. It seems there was an issue generating the variation. Would you like me to attempt it again? So I told it to do it again, and it had another wobble. Sometimes it happens, but then it spat out this one. As you can see here, this skull, not really what we're looking for. So it's kind of come to the end of the, just do another. I'm now going to put some more prompts in now. I'm going to tell it, I want it to almost be like on a fiery background, and I want the skull to melt. It's something I've done before in the past, and I kind of like these designs. So I'm going to try and do that. So now, can you please make the skull look like it's melting with flame background? And we'll just see how this goes. And this is how all what you do. Well, this is all what I do. I just keep on thinking of ideas and just putting it in until we get something that we can work with. Now there we go. Look at that. Now that's pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, you can see all the, I'm liking that. You can see it all melting and dripping. It's a shame there's red in the background, but that's not too much of a worry. We can sort that. Yeah, I like that. We're going to do another. I think we can work with that. Let's see what it generates. And there we go. There's another one. I am really tempted to have a go with these, even though they're not 100% how we'd want them. We'd want them all bas relief coloured without the flames. Let's see if we can put a tone in. If not, we will try those because I think those will work. One more similar with just an alabaster colour. Let's see if it'll do it. Oh, look at that. I'm liking that as well. That's almost gothic-y as well, isn't it? We could work with that as well. But no, I think what we're going to do going forward, I think we're going to try this one because, you know, obviously it's a tutorial run for. We'll try that because I'm loving the background on that and all the drips. So what we'll do now, we click this button here to do the download and it just pops it up there. And then we'll go across to the image. And now the next thing in the process is actually to get that image ready to do the depth map generation. We've got to do some editing. So I'll now show you that. Number 3. Image editing. Now what we're going to do now is refine the image to make it suitable for making the depth map for the 3D modelling. Now we're going to edit the image and get it ready for basically the depth map generation. Now what I've done is, as you can see, I use Canva and I do use the paid version of Canva. I find this is probably best for me. It makes things easy. What I like to use, the design I like to use an Instagram post. So if you come to the home page, you'll see you get lots of different things along the top. So I click Instagram post because it's 1080 by 1080 pixels and it just works. It just works for the way I do stuff. So if you just click that, as you can see, that's your page. And now basically I want to fill that whole page, the whole lot, I want to fill with our design. So I've uploaded it. As you can see here it is. So if I just click it, it just plonks it in the middle and then you can resize it yourself to the whole page. But what I kind of do, if you just click and hold it and then drag it across, as you see, it fills it up and it generates it nicely. So that's the image we're working with. Now we've got it to this, we need to edit it and, as I said, get it ready. Now the first thing that springs to mind, if you see these drips across the eyes, you see these here? Now, these are going to be problematic because we've always, as I've said at the beginning of the process, you've always got to think of the end result. We've got to pour this in silver. So they're going to cause us mega problems because there's no way we can really do that with a big gap eye socket behind. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you how I edit the photo to get rid of these gaps. So we go to editing, click the image, edit, and we go to magic erase. Now this gives us this little tool. And as you can see, you can just click where you want it to erase. So you'll go click. I just want to leave just on the, almost on the top of the eye socket. I want to leave a little bit there so it does look like a drip coming down. So it's just going to gesture that as a drip. And that's just about right there. And we'll get rid of this one. There we go. I think we'll go for that. So once you've took away what you wanted to, basically it's sort of a big eraser, isn't it? So then you just click erase and then Canva will do its trickery. As you can see I've taken away. We'll go a bit more. It hasn't took quite as much as we wanted, so we just do it again. We just go a little bit more. Just steady hand, so we take a bit more away. There we go. And this side here. I mean, you can also do this procedure when you're doing the actual image generation, but I find it's very hit and miss. That, as you can see there, gone nicely. So that's good enough to pour now. I'm happy with that. But before we make the depth map, just another thing that I've found with my experience, I like to upscale the image. Now, basically, upscaling the image, I mean, basically all what that does, it just makes it more, I want to say, detailed and like finer looking, and it just puts a nice finish and sheen to it. Just so what we do now, we click it and you go edit again, and if you come down here, there's image upscaler, so we click that and there we go ×8 and upscale, and this will just make it look more smooth in places and just makes it better for when we do the generation. So we just let it do its thing again. And it's all these little steps that I've worked out that gets me to the end product. If you miss one of these out, you don't get to, well, I don't anyway. I don't get as such a good product at the end of it. The piece of art's just not as good. So it's all these little tricks and hints that, you know, really help the process. So there we go. There's a before and after there, but I'll be honest with you, my mince pies aren't that good to see the difference on that little one. So I just click replace, and you will see it just do a quick transformation. It is only very subtle, but it's well worth doing. And there you go. See how it's a bit more, I want to say, it's smoothed the edges and it just flows better, and it just looks better, makes it look better. Should we just say that? So once you have it in that state, we have to save it. So you come up here, download, and there it is. You're ready to do the depth map generation. Step number 4, depth map and STL file creation. In this section, I'm going to show you the hints and tricks I use for creating the depth map and the 3D STL file. So look at that, look how cool that image looks on the full screen, just absolutely wonderful. Now what we've got to do now is make the depth map. Now this is where you can go online, you can find lots of different depth map AI tools, but the one that I use is Zoe Depth, but I don't just use the normal Zoe Depth that you find. I've used one that's been edited, and it's actually called, I think it's tiled Zoe Depth. And what you actually do, you take your image, as you can see here, this one here that we've gone with, you take your JPEG, it has to be in JPEG format, and then you put it into Zoe Depth Map Creation, tiled, or whatever it's called. I'll show you in a second. And it does the work, and basically you just get a lot better result than just using the standard Zoe Depth. So let's dive straight in. Right, so this is basically the standard Zoe Depth model, as you can see here, and you get the input and then you get the output. Pretty simple. But the one I actually use has been modified. Someone's come along and modified, and what we've actually we're using tiling Zoe Depth, and it's made by a chap called Bill F. Smith, and the version that we're going to actually use for this one is version 3. So I'm going to click on that there, and that opens. There we go. This is what we need, tiled Zoe Depth v3. Now what I'll actually do, I'll put a link to this actually in the description below, and you can actually use the same one that I use. I'm also in the actual process, I've got my own which I've edited as well, which is slightly different to this. It's a bit quicker because it doesn't have to keep loading certain things up in memory. But anyway, what we do now, let's get rid of the code. You don't need the code. Now this is all done, sorry I forgot to say, this is all on a Google Colab. You need a Google account to actually be able to access it. And basically all what this means is we're going to actually be using Google's computers, we're going to be using their NVIDIA chips, we're going to use their power to process the image, because it is very, very processor heavy, so we'll use Google stuff. All we need to do to get it started, we just click this little button down there, the little play button, and we're off and running. Run anyway. This notebook was made by William Smith, and you go, yeah, run. And now what it's going to do, it's going to set it all up, and then it's going to ask us where our image is, what we want to convert into a depth map. And what this one does, I mean the clue's in the name, it's tiled. What it does, it breaks the image up into little tiles, and it does it little tile by little tile, little bit by bit, so you can get a lot better resolution, so you get a lot better outcome. So let's just choose the file. There we go. So we've put the melting skull JPEG in, and now all it'll do, it'll just, you sit back, go and grab a coffee, and it'll be 5 or 6 minutes, and it'll do its process. It just goes through all this stuff, all this code, as you'll see here, downloading NVIDIA, blah blah blah, and you just sit back and let you do its thing. So as you can see, here we go. It's just processing. That's the low resolution one, as you can see there. And look at that. I mean, it's pretty good, to be fair, compared to some that you see. And then here's the high resolution, and it's got even more detail. But we're not done yet. There's more secrets to come. But that one, the bottom one there, that'd work perfectly fine. You would get, that would generate a 3D image, okay, an STL file. But the process I'm going to show you now is the bit that I've worked hard on for weeks and weeks and weeks with a couple of computer geek friends of mine to actually get the process to where we want to do it, because we want more detail. If you remember the original image, which I'll pop up now, it had a lot more detail. all around the skull and everywhere. And now I'm going to show you how you put that detail into the depth map. So basically all we do is, if you could come up over here, as you see, it's downloaded there, and that's what we've got. That's what it downloaded as. So now we're going to put more detail into that, and I'm going to show you how we do that now. Right, so here we go. Here's the depth map, as you saw, and here's the original image. And as you can see, we haven't got a lot of detail, have we? We're missing lines. We don't know what these are. His teeth aren't very good. Bottom of his jaw and the background. We need to put more of this detail back into the depth map. Now, this is what was causing me problems for many weeks. I couldn't work out how to do it, but I'm going to show you how I do it now. And all it is, it's a bit of image manipulation, and it's just really quick, really simple. Once you know the process, that's all it is, walk you through the process. Now, to do this, I use a program called GIMP, and again, it's another free way of doing it. You could do it in other versions, Adobe or other paid software, but I just use GIMP, free and easy to download. So let's get the image into GIMP, and I'll show you how we do it. So basically, this is GIMP, and what we're going to do now, we're going to load the images in. Now, you've got to do it in a certain order, because basically, I want to change this into basically a grayscale, the same kind of colours that's on the depth map. And as an really simple and easy way of doing that with GIMP. So all you do is you pull in first the depth map that we just created, just drag that in, and as you see, that'll just drop in. And there you go, there you have it. Now all we do now is drag the original image on top, and it'll change all the colours for us. So we just drop it on top. And there we go. That's what we need. Now look at that. Look how cool that is. But obviously we're still not there, because that's not a depth map, is it? If I turn that image off now, that's the depth map. And that's the image. Now what we need to do is basically combine both of these together. So to be able to do that, we need to do some manipulation to this image. Now the first thing you need to do is put a high pass filter on it. Now this will basically make it even more grayscale. So what we do, you come up to here, filters, enhance, high pass. Okay, now as you can see, that's just basically left us with the line details, what we want. And now we've just got to do one more thing to make the depth map come through underneath. And now what we've got to do now is change some colours. So you come to colours and you go colour to alpha, and then that'll move all that one tone of grey and give us all the line detail on top of the depth map. And there you have it. That's the depth map now. Now look at that, how much better is that? So we started, if I just quickly load it up, if I can just open it up. So we've gone from that, let's move it over a bit. We've gone from that to that. Now that's what we want. That's what you want to be creating your STL files out of. So all you do now, you just save that out. You just go File, Overwrite Depth, Skull, Multi-Skull Depth, and we have our depth map. So there you go, there he is. Now all we've got to do is make an STL file now, so we can actually get it into Blender and muck about with it. So to make the STL file, we just take this depth map now and pop it onto an online program, which will do all the work for us. So let's get over to that now. Right, so let's make the STL file so we've got a proper 3D thing we can print out. Now this is the online editor I use. It's called Image to STL, as you can see up here. Create a 3D height map. Now there is other ones out there, but this is a free one, and it gives me all the options I need. It's pretty simple, because I'll be honest with you, I'm a bit of a not great with computers anyway, as you've probably seen throughout this tutorial. I'll just do it the easy way. Now this is the next job. So first up, it says upload a file, but you have to choose what file type. Now we saved our depth map in a PNG file. So you just come up here, you click Tools, PNG to STL. So you just click that, and that actually loads the one that we need. What I'll actually do, I'll pop this actual stage in the comments below the link, so you can just come straight to it. So here we go. First thing, it says upload a file. So you just drag. You can either click that and select it, or drag it. As we got it down there, we'll drag it across. And there you go. You plop it in. And now it gives you some options. Now, if you remember back to the beginning, we set it up at 1080 by 1080 pixels, and we've kept the size of the photo the same all the way through. So this gives us a nice 10 by 10, which is 10 centimeters, a nice square basically. So we've kept it all the same. So that stays as it is. Now the tool stays as standard. We don't mess with none of that. We don't need to mess with any of those settings, but the detail we need to change because we want a high detailed 3D image, don't we? So we change that to high, and the base I just put to 1, and that's just 1mm. And what that'll do, it'll just make it a bit thicker by 1mm. It'll stick 1mm base on the back of the bar, just so there's no holes and no very thin spaces. And then all we do, we just click the button and we let the computer do its magic. And there you have it. There's your little 3D design in there. And now all what we've got left to do, as you can see, is click download, and it comes to our computer. You just get rid of the adverts because as it's a free program, they stick some adverts on, as you can see. But there we go, and that's as easy as it is. It's downloaded, as you can see up there. It downloads into a zip file. So let's get that open now and have a look at it. Now look at that. That's what I'm talking about. How cool does that look, folks? A nice look at that, a nice deep relief on it, as you can see. So that'd make a lovely panel. I mean, it looks good just like that, just as a square panel. It'd come out really cool, but this gives us lots of options, doesn't it? I mean, we could do a rectangular bar. We can mess about with the aspect ratio slightly, so we can elongate and make a nice rectangular bar, or we could even do a nice round. That'd make a nice coin round, wouldn't it? But as you can see, that's how we get to the STL file. Now, the next step, we'll be getting this into Blender and just editing to what we want to print out. Number 5, 3D design editing. Adjusting the STL file in Blender to resize it, fix issues and prepare for slicing. So this is Blender. Now, there's lots of different programs you can use to muck about with the STL file. Now, I'll use Blender. It's a free program. Now, I know it does look really complicated. There's lots going on. And I'll be totally honest with you, I'm not great on computers, and this program absolutely terrified me. Absolutely terrified me. But there's lots of tutorials on YouTube, online. So I suggest you go and have a look at some. And you only need, for what we're doing here, for the silver pouring, you only need very basic stuff. I mean, all I'm going to do is literally, we're just going to be cutting things out and resizing in layman's terms. That's all we're going to do. So first up, we've got to get the STL file loaded in. So we come and import that. So I'll import that file now. Right, so here is the file. Look at that. Now it's the other way up at the moment, but let's just spin him round. And there you go. And now I think that's really, really cool. So you have a better look at him, and you can see the depth we've got on it. So that should transfer across to the sand really nicely. Right, so now we just got to work out what we want to do with him. What type of design do we want to do? Do we want to do a bar, a round, or even a square panel like that? I'm kind of thinking, I've been doing quite a few. Oh, I do like that. I've been doing quite a few rectangular bars lately. Should we see if we can make a bar? Now, what I've actually done, I've created, to make my life a lot easier in Blender, I've actually created some templates, almost like cookie cutters. And basically you just place them on top of the image and you can cut out whatever shape you want or size you want. So what I'll do, I'm going to import now my bar cookie cutter, which makes a 60 by 30 millimeter bar, which is 6 centimeters by 3 centimeters. And that's just like a nice little rectangular bar. So I'll import that now and we'll see if we can get something good out of it. Now, there you go. It's just stuck it straight on top. And as you see, that's no good, is it? Let's just move it out the way. And that's all it is. Just zoom out. As you can see there, it's just a it's just a cookie cutter for STL files. I've just made a rectangle in the middle there. And that measures 60 by 30. And that just gives us a nice bar for pouring. So let me just turn this round. So we're just going to rotate it. And I always get it wrong on the Z axis, 90 degrees, is it? There we go. So that gives us our bar. And now we're just going to move it across. Now, as you can see, it's just far too big, isn't it? So we've got to do a bit of manipulation to the starting image now. So to do that, we come up here, we just select the starting image. And as you can see, the orange outline, we've got it there. Now we're just going to resize it. We're just going to make it smaller. So at the moment, it's 100 by 100 square. So we'll just half it and see what it looks like. We'll just go 50. by 50. Now that's too small, but we're going to mess about with the ratios a little bit. We're going to extend it. So let's just make it taller. So that's going to be the y-axis. So we'll just go 60. Oh, nearly got it there. We nearly had it there, didn't we? And it still looks cool. It keeps the proportion okay. You do have to watch slightly when you're doing this, because things can start looking a bit weird if you mess about too much. So I'm just going to make it a little bit wider. 52. You'll see the skull go fatter now. Across here, it'll go fatter, as you can see. And we'll just make it a little bit bigger because we're not quite there. Let's go 65. Now look at that. That's looking a cool bar. I think that'll pour nice. So as you can see now, that's inside our cutter. I was going to say cookie again, but I'm struggling with my words. So now what we're going to do now is cut it out, and we'll just be left with that rectangular bar, which we can go on to 3D print. So to do that, I'll just use the process called Boolean modifier. Now a Boolean, it's just a modifier you can add to Blender. I'm not going to go into it here because it is a bit of a process, and there is lots of videos that will explain it a lot easier and better than I can. Basically all it is, it means we can take one shape away from the other and leave the remainder. So that's all we're going to do. We're going to take this big square away, the cutter away, and just leave that bar. And anything associated with the bar, you see this orange outline will be cut away. So to do that, you just select that one first, then you select the second one. No, sorry, I got it the wrong way around. You select the big one first, and then you select second, you select what you want to keep. Well, we want to keep the bar, so we select that second. And then you press Control, Shift and B, and this brings up the Bool tool. And it's already there, we just want to do the difference. So you click that. And there we have it, there's our bar. Look at that bad boy, look at that bad boy. So that's sized up, as you can see, 60 by 30, 6 centimeters by 3 centimeters. Cool little bar. Now all we got to do now, it's a bit too deep, because as you can see there, it's miles too deep. So we just got to make it thinner basically. So you select the bar, you come over here to the Z axis dimension, and I normally do them about 4.5 to 5 millimeters thick. So we'll go 4.5 on this one. I think, as you can see, it's flattened it down. Let's just have a look, and there you go, there's our bar. Now that is now ready for 3D printing, and then we can get it in the sand. So that's the process, and it's as simple as that. And now I know it does look daunting, but once you've done it a few times, you do get it. And as I said, there's lots of different cutters. I've made a circular one, a bar one. What I might do later on is actually link these somewhere so you can actually download them, maybe on my website or wherever, and you can actually use them to do your designs, to cut your designs out. So what we do now, we just export that, and then the next stage will be getting this across to a program called Cura, which then basically configures it and gives the code to the printer so it can understand how to print it out. Number 6, slicing for 3D printing. Preparing the 3D model for printing using Cura or other similar software. Now we've got the STL file and it's all cut down in the item we want to 3D print. The next thing we got to do is make the file so we can 3D print it. Basically, all what we're going to do now is give the 3D printer the instructions on how to print it out. Now to do that, it's something called slicing, and what it is, you take the actual 3D print, and this program here, Ultrasonic Cleaning, will basically cut it up into thin slices or layers, and then the printer will print each layer as it goes, and that's all we've got to do now. So this, as I say, this is the program I use. It's called Ultrasonic Cleaning. Now there's lots of others. Some printers come with their own. I think Bamboo Labs have their own one. Creality have their own one. But I like to use Cura because it's just the one I've used from the beginning. And to be fair, they're all pretty much the same. They've all got different settings. So I'm just going to talk you through the settings that I use. So first up, we just pull in the piece that we want to do. So we just find it. It's just down here on the computer. So we go in Skull Bar. We just pull that in. And it'll just load it up. And it's going to plonk it there, as you can see, right on the bed, on the print bed. Now, what I like to do with my prints for silver pouring, I like to print them on their edge because you just get a lot better finish. If you were to print it flat like that, you'd get a lot of the layer lines on top, which not great. It just depends what you're doing. Sometimes they look really cool on the piece. It's just you judge what's best for what piece. Now for this, I want a nice detailed finish. So we're going to stand this up on the edge. So I'm just looking now to see which edge is best. Now looking at that, it's a thicker edge on the top than the bottom. So I think I might print it upside down, as it were. So let me just flip it up for you so you can see. Let's just turn it up. Ooh. Yeah. Let me spin him round so you can see. So let's stand it up. We got enough of a base. That light blue is where it's attached to the bed or the raft. No, I'm gonna do it the other way around. So just bear with me. I'll just fly him round, and then we'll have a little look from the side to make sure there's no big overhangs. Because what I'd like to do, I'd like to print it without any supports. Now, all what supports are, they just climb up the front of the print to keep it printable, basically. But I think we're going to be okay. Right, we're going to go with that. And now we're going to look at the settings. So if you come up here, as you can see at the moment, it's set to low quality because I was printing something else out before. We want this on super quality, the best quality. But I've actually got a custom profile that I've set up for this. Bars on rafts. So I just click that. And it preloads all the settings for me. And you've got layer height, infill density, lots of stuff that, I'll be honest with you, folks, you don't really need to know everything, what they all mean. But the one I've got here is raft. Now that basically means it just prints a big, well, what it says on the tin, a raft for that to sit on when it prints. And I just find that gives it a better, it sticks to the bed better. I mean, you can do it without no raft, just a line round it, but sometimes it can get knocked over when it's printing. But I think we're going to go with that because I have used these settings before. And what I'll do, I will go into more detail on print settings in another video. But basically, you just choose. I mean, a lot of these are the presets. I mean, all what I've messed about with is basically putting it on the raft. I've turned the supports off because I don't want no supports. And the print speed and the print temperature, I've just upped slightly to 200. And that's it. And the infill density is only 20. And basically, layer height 0.12, as you can see, basically that's my settings. So what we'll do now, we'll ask it to slice it up. So we click slice. It's just calculating all the layers. There you go. It's estimated 1 hour 56 minutes. That sounds about right for these bars, are normally around the 2 hour mark. And if we do the preview, what this shows you how it goes about the printing. So you can, that's just doing the last layer. So if I bring it down a few layers, you'll see as it goes up, this is what the printer does. As it goes up, it just does layer by layer. That's what it's sliced. And if we play it, you'll see that yellow there is the print nozzle going across, and that's what it prints, a layer at a time. And that's just what when it was slicing, that's what the computer's working out, how to tell the printer to do each one of them layers. So what we'll do, we'll save it to disk and we'll get it across to the printer, and I'll show you the printer, the setup, and how we do the printing. Number 7, 3D printing preparation. Setting up the printer, bed leveling, adjusting print settings, and actually starting the print. So here we are, we're over at the printer. As you can see, I've got a Creality, and that's what we're using, just some Hyper Series silver coloured or grey coloured PLA filament. So let's get it switched on. So just on the side there. Right, now the first job, what I like to do is level the bed. Now all what that means is just to make sure this is level. If you move your printer around or haven't used it for a while, it's always best to, because you need a good level setting, because it's your foundation obviously to build upon. So we'll just do that first. Now it's pretty simple with this model. You just scroll through, leveling at the bottom, press the button, and what it's going to do now is level the bed for us. So I'm just going to pop that down, and you'll see it do its thing. And all it does is take measurements all over every part of it and make sure it's all levels it up and make sure it's good to print. Now here we go. It's all completed, and as you can see, there's all the calculations, and they're all within tolerance, all in the green, so that's good. So we just come across here and go confirm. And now that is ready to print, so we'll get it set up to print. Here we go then, so we're all set up. I've preheated it, PLA, as you can see, we're up to temperature, bed's temperature up to the right temperature. So now we're just going, we're going to print the item, the school bar. There we got it. There's the G code for it, which you've seen us doing QRAT. Estimated time 1 hour 56. Calibration off, as we've just done the bed leveling. So I click confirm, and there we have it. It's just going to do its thing now. It's just going to start printing, and I'm just going to put that on a time lapse, and you can see it do its thing. So here we go, there's the print. Looking pretty cool. Let's remove him there. Look at that bad boy. How cool is that? Nice big relief. And there we have it. That's the printing process done. Number 8, print quality check. Inspecting the print and preparing it for the sandcasting. This is the print off the printer. Now, next up, we got to look at it and see if we need to do any preparation to it. Now, sometimes what you'll find, some of the edges, you might have some little bits of, I'm not what they call it. Oh, a little stringing. It's just where the 3D printer just leaves a bit of stringing or residue, but it's not too bad. And also, you need to look at, do we want it really smooth? What kind of finish you're going for? Now, this all depends on what the actual item is. Now, with this one, the finish here, because we've printed him like that vertically, it's really, really cool. There's no layer lines that I can see, so that should be pretty cool. But when we turn it over, you'll see these thin little lines all going across. They're the layer lines. Now, you can get rid of those, but it all depends how you want the end look. I quite like the rustic look, because when they transfer across to the sand, it gives it like this raw kind of, yeah, unfinished. I want to say unfinished, yeah, and kind of punky look, which I like. But if you wanted to get rid of those, now there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can take your sandpaper and sand it down, and then you can actually buy some primer, a bit like the primer you'd spray on your car when you've done a repair, just some grey primer or whatever colour. Spray it all over, and it will just fill in all the little gaps, and it will give you a smooth surface. Or if you don't want to do no sanding, say if I had some very thin layer lines on his head there or whatever, another technique you can use is just give it a very light spray of some acetone or something like that. But this will also work. A little bit of lacquer, like a little bit of clear coat. If you just give it a very quick, very light spray, what you'll find, it kind of almost melts the surface a little bit. So it just smooths it off. Now, you do have to be careful. Go too much and you can take too much off, but that's the way you'd prepare it before you take it across to the sand. And another check I do, I just check all the edges to make sure they're smooth. Now, they feel all right. Now, this bit up here, if you remember, we've done it on a raft. We printed it on the raft. That was down like that. So with that, I will give that a little bit of a sand just to make sure that's smooth, because we don't want that pulling any of the sand out when we're trying to get the mould out the sand. So you just give it a very light sandpapering. Feels smooth. And what I'll do like to do also is just give all the way around the edge, just a very light sand at an angle. Now what this is doing, it's creating, they call it a draft angle basically. You can do it in the design, you can cut the edges at an angle, but I don't like to do that if I'm honest. It's not worth the aggro. If you just sand it at a bit of an angle, you'll also find that you don't pull a lot of the sand out, because sometimes you'll press it in and you'll pull it out and the edges will break. Now, sometimes I sand the edges, sometimes I don't. It's just how lazy or whether I can be bothered that day. But if there's problems with breaking the edges, I do always get my file or the sandpaper out and just sand down the side like that, just at an angle. And it just means when it goes in the sand, it's not straight on, it just has a little bit of an angle. So when it pulls out, it's thicker at the top than the bottom, if you get what I mean. So that's it prepared. Next job now is to go and get it in the sand and do some sand casting. Number 9, casting flask selection. Choosing the appropriate flask and why it's the right selection for the pour. Right, next up for us to look at is actual casting flasks. Now you can get all different ones, but it's when you start to look into it, it's not that daunting. And look at this one here. Let me just move some of these out of the way. This was the very first one that I did my very first pouring. And as you can see, I made this myself. This is just 4 bits of wood, just cut up and screwed in just to make a frame. And all that I did with this, just filled it full with the casting sand and then pressed the item in and then poured it. And as simple as that. Now you can use those, you can make those. If you're just doing open cast casts, that's the most simplest way of doing it. Fill it with your sand, push in, and away you go. You're off and running. And something like that, I still use them today. I make all the GPS tracker rounds with these, or half of one of those ones. So nothing wrong with that at all. So that works. It's all horses for courses. Now you've got flasks like this, which is a 2-section. Now this is when you're doing what they call a closed flask, because obviously it's 2-sided, and you close them together, and you pour in from the top, and your item the impression I should say, sitting inside like that, and you pour it, and you use those when you want to get an exact copy of what you've got in your hand. Obviously, if you do an open cast using this, if I was to push that in and pour it in, you're going to get a dome back, aren't you? Everyone's going to be slightly different. But with this technique, when you use one of these, you can get the exact copy every time. And also you get the same weight, don't you? So when we do this bar that I've done here, we'll be using a flask, and we'll probably be using that one, because I'm really liking these cast iron ones at the moment. I mean, it is a bit big for that, but it'll work. So that'd do that. And now you've got flasks like this, which doesn't have a side pouring hole. This is a 2-section one again. Now with these flasks like this, you'd actually pour in from the top. You'd actually make your own sprue hole, which you'd pour in. So you'd have your impression inside, and then you just make a hole in and pour down from the top. Now I'm not a massive fan of those. I mean, I use this more as a open cast one now, if I'm honest, just pushing stuff in. These are the ones. I've still got some tape on. If I just take that off, as you can, that's your side pour hole, and you pour in there, and it really is horses for courses, and it's just size. It just comes down to size. So something like this, as you can see, not quite big enough. I mean, very, very risky if you try and do it like that, just because there's not enough, you're not getting enough sprue on. So something like that, you'd need a bigger flask. You'd need something like that to pour in, so you got some space. So that's why this cast iron one's ideal. But if it was a round, let's get this one again. If it was a round, now that'll sit perfect in there. Look, you got enough space around it. You need enough space around it for the sand, so you could pour in there, have a nice sprue, and there'd be no problems. I mean, if you tried to do it in a small one like that, I mean, could you do it in a small one? You probably could just get away with it, but it's fraught with danger, isn't it? It's very close to the side, so I wouldn't advise it. Always use enough space around it, and if you're in doubt, go for the slightly bigger one. It's a bit like this piece here. Look at that. You could do, it's just a bit it's too big for the flask. You go for the next size up, so that one would pour perfectly. So that's the run through for the flasks. And as I said, today we're going to be using this one to do our 3D, for what we've 3D printed, the skull, multi-skull bar, as I've called it. So let's get across to the shed now, and I'll show you the sandcasting process and how we do it. Number 10, the sandcasting process. Preparing the mould, selecting the right sand and other techniques. Right, so we're outside in the shed, and we're now going to start doing the actual sand casting, getting our hands dirty, getting in the sand. And now we've got this cool print, as you've seen, and we've got to transfer this across now into the sand and make a good impression so we get a good cast. Now looking at it, we're going to have a few, I can foresee a few problems, because you see these gaps here, sand's going to get stuck in there. So when we do pull it out, we're going to have some sand left in there, but we can get round that. And the first job that you do, and what we're going to do to try and stop that, you're always going to get some, with items like this, you're going to get some sand stuck in there. It's just the way it is, it happens. But to stop it, we're going to be using a little trick. We're going to be using a bit of powder. Now, you can use all different stuff. You can use talcum powder, flour, corn flour. I use corn flour at the moment, just because I had some and I ran out of talcum powder. My powder of choice is talcum powder. But what you need to do is give it a little dusting. Now, you don't have to go too mad. You don't want piles and piles of it all over the place. You just need a very light dusting that you can just see. I mean, what you want, when you take it out the sand, you just want to see the odd little speckle of white. You don't want to see loads of powder, because it'll affect the finish. You want as little as you can leave on. So that's why I rub it so much like that. Right, there we go. We just get a little... just so to the naked eye you can hardly see it, and that's what we're going for, just a very thin coating, and that'll aid it coming out the sand. It won't stick as much. Now, as you can see, we've also got, this is very, very thin. Some of the edges of the bar are very thin, so again, that'll cause us problems. We've got to make sure we push it in further enough to make sure we get all the bar coming out. So this one, we're going to pour down from the top. That's where we're going to pour in, so that's where the sprue's going to come off. So we go with that, and we're going to be using, like I explained a little bit earlier, we're going to be using the cast flask, the cast iron one, nice rectangular one. So let's get onto that. And you want to position it somewhere in the middle so you can get a nice long sprue down. And that means all the silver's got nice time, a lot of gravity will do its job, and it'll force it down, and it should go in, and we should get a nice pour. So we've got a nice depth to it there, so we're going to go for that. Now we've got to talk about sand, or Delft clay, or Petrobond. Lots of different names. You can get green sand, lots of different stuff. I keep it really simple. I just use a Petrobond type of sand. Now, Petrobond, this is basically all what this is. This is just sand, very fine sieve sand with oil in. That's all it is. So when you grab a handful, let me show you, lift my sleeves up. When you grab a handful, see how it bonds together, sticks together? Now that's what you want. That's a good sign. You see, it just breaks. You got to give it a bit of pressure for it to break. So you see that, it takes the indent to my fingers, and that's what you want. That's what you're looking for in a good sand. Now I get all mine, since I started casting over a year ago, I get it all from the same place, and I've never been disappointed. I think it's one of those things when you find something that's working for you and you're happy with it, just keep going with it. It's pointless changing. I mean, look at that. That's what you want. Just basically, as I said, just sand with oil in. Right. Now, first job, let me break those down. You've got to make sure it's all nice and fine. We are going to sieve it anyway, but I like to get any massive lumps out. It just aids with the sieving. I mean, there is lots of different clays, as I just say. You can get Delft clay, which is more compact and more for jewellery. You see a lot of the jewellers using the Delft clay, and it's a lot more expensive. It really is expensive. I mean, this stuff isn't too bad price-wise, so that's why I go for it as well. Does what I need, gets the details that I need, and it's cost efficient. Right, let's just put that over there. So now it's time to fill up the flask. Now the first few layers, what I like to do, I like to sieve it nice and fine, sieve it again, so it's really nice and fine. And the reason why we sieve it, so you don't get no big lumps on top of the mould. So let me grab the sieve. Now this is just your household sieve. As you can see, it's got some holes around the side here. And it's starting to go, so you get, I've got to watch my fingers, I do need another one. And all I do is you pop it on, grab a bit of this sand, and it's just simple. You just sieve it over. I'll just move that out of the way. And as you can see now, we're just getting very fine coating over the bar, and that's what we want. We want the first layer to be sieved so it takes all the details in. Because if you had big lumps all over it, when you come to compact it, you might miss some of the bar. You might not get a very good impression. So this is the best way of doing it, and almost every silver pourer I see does it this way. Most of them always sieve the first layer. So there we go. Now I'm just going to very gently just spread it out and just go a bit more, and then once we've done a little bit more, we can start getting lumping in. I like to call it lumping in. We'll start putting some bigger stuff in. Right, okay, we're there. Let's just wipe that in. Just push it down very gently. I'm not moving anything. I'm not even pushing. I can't even feel the 3D print here. I'm just pushing down very lightly to start. Right, there we go. Now I'm going to tip some more in, and then we're going to compact it. We're going to get the hammer out and then compact it. So I'm just going to put that on top. Now I'm just spreading it out to make sure you've got all the corners. I want to make sure that we've got sand in all the corners. Now with the back of the spoon, I like to use a spoon. It just gives me a nice feel. So just again, this is very light. We're not even compacting it. We're not really doing anything yet. We're just pushing it down. There we go. Right, when we're at this now, I like to get the fingers in. And we're going to basically, what we're going to do now, we're going to hold the print in place and push down with our fingers as much as we can. Right, so I've got a firm push down there. And now I'm just going to firmly push around it. And what we want the print to stay where it is. And we want all the sand to nicely press around it. So I'm just pushing down, and also you got to make sure that the mold doesn't move. So my back finger here, I don't know if you're going to get on camera, that's holding the mold as well. So you're gripping the mold and holding the print, and you'll feel it. You can feel it compressing, and it's like you can feel when it starts to, you can feel it just touching the print. That's what you want. And we'll do it at the back as well. Again, I've got that there, my thumb there, holding the flask in place. There we go, that's pushed down. And now what we'll do is just put another little layer on, and then we'll get the hammer on it. I do like to use the hammer for the first impression. There we go. Now I'm just going to use this, just a normal hammer. You can get all sorts of different things. I think, is it called? I can't remember what it's called. You can get special tools is it a tamper? I think it's a tamper to whack the sand down, but I'll just use a hammer. It's fine. Right. So here we go. Now with this, you're not whacking it. You're not knocking a nail in. You just go. You got to have very steady, controlled power. And you see that's just control power, and look how much it's compacted, and that's just very, very gentle. Again, we're holding it in place so nothing moves. So there we go. And now, all we do now is basically just keep rinsing and repeating until we're at the top of the flask and it's all filled up to the very top. But obviously now we don't have to sieve it because it's not, we're just filling up. It's not going to come in contact with a mould with a 3D print, so we can just hammer it in now. So where you can speed up a little bit. So there we are, we've got it all downed up on the back now. Now it's hammer time again. Hammer that down now. Getting to this stage, I'm using a little bit more force. You'll see a lot of it will come off, and that means it's compacted nicely inside. And that's all we need. You don't have to go too mad. And that's the hammer stage done. Now once we're at this stage, now what we've got to do is clean it off so it's nice and clean, nice and flat. So what I'll use for this, another kitchen utensil, Mrs. Punk, I'm so sorry. This is just what you call a dough slice, just a plastic bit of kit, and it works perfectly for this. You can use different stuff, you can use metal rulers, anything with a straight edge basically. And what we're going to do, we're going to make sure this is in contact with that, so you get a nice scrape, a nice thing. The first one you can just take a little bit off, you know, but when it's there, I'm touching the metal, I'm touching the iron there, and it just gets it all to the right level. It's a bit more tricky, we'll go this way. Touching the metal, and it just scrapes it off and it gets it nice and smooth. That's all you got to do. Easy peasy. There you go, we've got a nice flat edge. Now it's time to flip it over and put the top of the cast on. Right, so here we go. Now, you should be able to pick it up. Now, what's happened with this one here, I've hit it a little bit too hard with the hammer and it's actually moved slightly. Now, this happens all the time. Yeah, sometimes they come out great and they don't move, it's perfect, but other times you get little gaps. Now, all we're going to do now, we're going to leave it exactly where it is. We're just going to manipulate the sand a little bit with our fingers, pushing from the bottom, not up here, just from the bottom, and close that gap slightly. See, just closing that gap, and just rub over, making sure there's still enough sand on top so it's still inside the sand, and that'll just give you a cleaner edge. And that top bit we just do a little rub because it's hardly anything. And there you go. Next job now, more powder. I'm running really low, I've just got enough, I think. No, bear with me, I've just got to go and get some more powder. Right, so new cup of corn flour. Now let's get on. Now what we're doing again, absolutely same process as before. We're just putting some on and rubbing it off. Now you can be a lot more generous this time because obviously it's not going to affect the inside, you just off the back, but the outside of the sand you don't have to worry about. Just make sure you get it a lot off the back, and the rest you want quite a bit on there because we want it to part. We don't want the sand to stick together inside and stick together, because that'll be a nightmare when we come to part the flasks. It'll just rip all the sand out, so you want quite a bit on there. This is where you can be generous with it. There we go. Now, top of the flask. Now, just a little thing. If I put the flask straight on there, you'll see, because I've compacted it a bit too much, it's overspilled. So it'll be inside and it'll stop and fit them together nicely. So what you need to do here, you should just rub it off. Just take your finger down and just make a nice clean edge of the flask. Like that. And just go all the way around. It's not too bad that side. It's just the side really. It's overspilled. So I just hit it a bit too much. There you go. Brush it off. And again, give that a good dusting. So it'll all come to part nicely. There we go. Right, we're good to go. So now it's pretty much rinse and repeat. We just do the same process again until we're completely filled up. And again, in the first layer, we do the sieving just to make sure that we don't have no big lumps and that it takes the mould nicely. So here we go. There we go. So let's get some in now. Now I'm just pushing it in with the back of the spoon again. Every time I put some in, I just compact it down, as you can see, using the spoon and my fingers. And that's what I love about it, working with your hands. It's just so tactile. It's just good, isn't it? It's just so cool. Right, now hammer time again, and again just lightly compacting. Now, obviously, you kind of get a feel for it because every one that you do is slightly different. The contours are different on the 3D print, the subject matter, and you kind of get used to how hard you have to compact it. It's something that I can't really teach. You just get it with experience. Some items you have to really compact it really hard, really give it a good hammering. Other items you don't hammer at all. You might have seen some of my other videos where I just push it in very lightly and do that, but it's something that you learn with experience. The more items you do, you're like, oh, so something like that works like this, something like that works like that. It's just touch and feel. It's just an experience thing. You can look at a 3D print and go, oh, okay, that needs this technique. We need to do it this way. And it's just something you learn as you go. And you're learning all the time. I still am. Nothing always, you know, that's the great thing about it. You can see another pourer do something else, take that and go, yeah, I'm going to use that. And you create your own style. Everyone's got the different ways of doing things, be it the computer side, be it this actual sandcasting process. There's all different ways of getting an end result, and that's what just fascinates me. I love seeing how people do stuff, and it's lovely when people share their processes and what they do. I think it's just so useful to everybody concerned. I mean, if you're buying the item, you can see all the work that goes into it. If you want to try it for yourself, you've got the roadmap, obviously, of how to do it. And I just think it helps everyone, or, you know, it helps everyone, doesn't it? Everyone grows together. Right, so we're nearly there now. We're just pushing it in again, just pushing it in, and I think we're nearly there now for one more hammer. This is my favourite part. I gotta admit, the hammering's my favourite part. Again, I'm holding the mould, as you see, so it's not moving. And again, it's the same process, and it really is as simple as this. It really is. If I can do it, anyone can do this, trust me. It's just knowing the processes to follow. That's all it is. And hopefully this video will give you them processes so you can have a go at it yourself. It's just, you know, just follow the, I want to say the list, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Just follow the processes. Now there we go. One more. Right. Moment of truth. Now I'm going to do this live. This is going to be, oh, I hope this works. I'm trying to show you guys how to do it all. I just hope this comes out right. Fingers crossed. Here we go. Okay, nothing's broken, that's good. You can see we've got a bit of powder there, which is annoying. That's not ideal, but hey-ho. But yeah, now, when we're at this stage now, we've got to get the print out. Now, this is a stage where we want to get the print out with the least amount of disturbance to the sand around it, because obviously the sand can break and it can be a right nightmare. This is probably the most trickiest part, I'd say, of the whole process. This actual bit is more important than actually pouring the silver. This is where it's the stuff's won and lost in this, making the impression. This is where it all, the end product, this is where it all comes from. Now, what I like to do first is give it a light tap with something. Now, what you've probably seen me in my other videos, use other stuff. I use the pliers, just the top of the pliers, give it a light tap. And what we're doing with this, when we go in, look, I'll show you what I'm going to do and then I'll explain why I'm doing it. Right. Now, the reason we do that is just try and get a little bit of air under it, tap it each side, and you'll see the 3D print moves slightly, and you get a little, and it just releases that kind of pressure underneath the mould so you can lift it out. So if you look very closely, I don't know whether you can get it, it just pops up slightly. I don't know whether you're going to get it on camera. Oh, you did there. I've done that quite hard, that's why. But so now, fingers crossed. Some of the times you can just turn the print over and it can come out. If the print isn't too detailed or has lots of deep lines, then yeah, you can. With this one, I'm preempting, because my experience, what I've done before, I think all them melty skull lines at the bottom are going to cause problems. So I think we're going to have sand stuck in there. So I'm guessing this is going to be a pain to lift out the sand. So really, I should have chosen an easier one to do as a kind of tutorial, but we'll have a go. So we get, the way I like to do it is a bit of tape, just masking tape. Now you put it on. Now I just go like that, zigzag with my thumb, pushing down. So you're making sure that the tape is stuck. Right, now we've got the tape there. Oh, now I've started lifting because it was stuck. What I like to do, you've got to try and lift both sides of the tape at the same time, so it comes, the print comes out as one. You don't want to go it zigzag like that uneven. You want to just nicely up as one. So here we go, 1 2 3, and there we have it. Oh, look at that. I couldn't have asked for a better impression. Look at that, nothing stuck in the sand. I think I got really lucky there, folks. But look at that, that's what we're after. I'm so pleased with that. Oh, look at that bad boy. That's wicked. Right. Once we're at that stage, now you just have a quick look. As you can see, this is lifted up slightly, so I'm just going to use my finger. You've got to be very careful now. When you start messing about with it with your fingers, you can break it really easy. So just be very careful. I'm just going to push that down slightly because it's coming away a little bit. And I'm just, as you can see, there's a bit of breakage, so I'm just going to push it back in with the edge of this. Sometimes you have to do this, sometimes you don't. But because otherwise that's going to cause us some problems, because we're going to make the sprue coming out that side. So I just want to, that's it. Right, so now we're going to make the sprue. So all what the sprue is basically the pour hole. And what I like to do, the best tool I can see for this to start with is my thumb. So you just come here, thumb down, push down hard, and you're dragging away. You want to drag that sand out the way, as you're seeing, drag it out the way. And you do it nice and hard. And that's where the silver's going to run through. And now I get my knife. Now there's lots of different ways of doing this. People use different things. You can use like little dentist tools, little scrapers, or all different things, whatever you use. Again, I'm just in the kitchen drawer, tap the kitchen drawer. I've got an old knife. And now all I do, when you're doing this, you need to push in and go under. So when I mean under, it's got to be lower than the edge of the impression so the silver can pour in. So like that, pull away, like that, pull away. Now you can do this with a 3D printing, or you can do it now after. Doesn't, whichever way floats your boat. I prefer to do it. I'll do it both ways. Sometimes on camera I leave it in. So there you go. I've done it this way because I think this will be just slightly easier if you're just beginning to do it that way. You do have to be careful though. If you're doing it this way without the printing, that you don't mess the edge of the bar up. But as you can see, when you look down now, So you've got the hole, and that's where it's going to pour in. I'm really pleased with that. Right, so once you've done that side, it's again rinse and repeat. We do the same this side. So thumb down. We'll go a bit more with a thumb. Didn't give it. That's it. And now with a knife, line it up to where the line of the bar is. Just push down, pull out. Do it again. Push down, pull out. I mean, basically, this part now, the neater you do this part here, the easier it is further down the line when you're trying to cut it off and sand it. I mean, if you can get it nice and neat to the line, you have a nice, easy cut and a nice, easy sand. If it's messed up a bit, you got more work to do down the line. So it's one of those, isn't it? So what I like to do is just give the sprue, be very careful not to go over the brink, just a little brush out to get any sand off, and then good blow to get it nice and clean. Because what you don't want any loose bits of sands in there, because obviously when you start pouring in the silver, the loose bits of sand's going to mix in with silver and cause problems, so we don't want that. You want to get all the debris out the way. So I'll just give it a little sweep around the edge, as you can see, and we do the same with this one. Tip it up very lightly, and then just a brush off, and then right, so when we're at this stage, there's one important thing that we really must do now. We have to put some vent lines in. Now, what are vent lines? Basically, vent lines are just scratches in the sand coming out from the piece all the way to the edge. Make sure you come to the edge of the thing. It's no good just doing something like that. You've got to dig in and you've got to come to the edge. So you want to go, so you get it all the way across. And what these do, these just let any air and gases escape from the pour, because you don't want it staying in there, because it will just bubble up and you won't get a very good pour. It'll just look horrendous. So make sure you put as many as you can. There we go. We've got them going all the way around. I mean, you could do some more there if you wanted, but I think that's enough. And that's it for the sandcast, basically. We just put it together now, and then that'll be ready to moving over to the pour. Number 11, melting the silver. Loading silver grain into the furnace, selecting the right types of silver, checking the crucible and setting the correct temperature. So we're almost ready to pour, but before we even turn the furnace on, we've got to do something really, really important, and that's a crucible check. Now, let me just grab it, give me have a look. So here we go, I've just took it out, as you can see. Now, there's the crucible. Now, this one that has been used, I always make a note. I always think it's very useful. I always got a pen and paper and a note. Now, this one, it's had 6 melt cycles. So what that means is I've heated it up and cooled it down 6 times. I've used it 6 times. And I always weigh them. As soon as I buy them, the first thing I do before I do the first melt, I weigh it. Now, this weighed 245 grams when I started. I'm now on to the 6th melt, and it's now down to 228 grams. So what's that? It's lost to getting on for 10% of its overall weight. Now, I see lots of people keep using them, and I think, oh my word, you're going to have a failure. And sometimes they just fail. I mean, I could use it this time and it could fail. I could use it on the first time and it could have a failure. Sometimes it is luck of the draw, but I always like to do a really good inspection. Just have a look, see if there's any degrading. And as you can see, it's starting to go. You rub it over, it's starting to go. You're getting little holes around here. So this one hasn't got much light, in my view. For my silver pouring and what I do at Silverpunk, this one hasn't got much life left. There's probably 1 or 2 left. In my experience, I run my crucibles between 6 and 8 times. I just don't think it's just not worth the risk, because you don't want to be having a crucible failure inside your furnace, because that's it, your furnace is gone. You know, you got to buy a new furnace. So I prefer to spend a bit more money, use them less, but spend more money on buying more crucibles. So let's grab the scales and I'll write it down, because this is going to be pour number 7. So let's pop it on the scale. Now it's now 223. So last time out it was 228. So it's lost a little bit more as we expect. So I'm just going to write it down, 223 grams on the 7th cycle. And I'm just going to have a look. As I said, you give it a quick inspection, just have a quick look, see if you can see any visible damage, any thin spots, any holes. But no, it's looking okay. As I say, it's just some holes around the top there where it's a bit thicker, but they're nothing to worry about. Let's get that off the bottom. Yeah, I think we're good to go with that one. So let's get that in the furnace. Right, now we're over at the furnace. As you can see, I've just popped it in, and now it's time to actually put the silver in and basically turn it on and get it melted. Now, I normally use silver grain, but what I've got here is a load of old sprues. These are the sprues, what you call the sprues, that I've cut off of other bar pours and other pours, and I'm going to be using those today to do these. But normally it would be grain, but these are just being poured from grain, all from the same place. I get all my silver grain from the same bullion dealer, as I like to. You just know where it's from, you know. I just know it's good quality stuff. I'm not going to have no problems when it comes to the hallmarking side of things. It's all pure and there's no problems. So that's what I'm going to put in today. We're going to be putting in some sprues, some old sprues, and we'll get it. What we'll do now, I'm going to weigh some out. I'm going to let me just weigh it here, just off camera. You're not going to see it because it's just on the scales here, but let me just get some weighed out. 80, that's 100, 134. Right, actually, good guess. I'm going to put all those in. Now, those come to 158 grams. So that's what I'm going to be putting in. These bars, this bar that I'm pouring, the Skull one, it's probably going to be between 1 and 2 ounces. So that's 60 grams, probably 62 grams maximum. So we're going to have more than enough, but you need to, don't forget the sprue on top as well. So you need to have a bit more, so we've got enough sprue in. So I'm just going to pop these in now. And what you want to do is you don't want to just drop them in like that. You want to put them in nice and on an angle and just let them slide down, because you don't want to do no damage to the crucible by dropping them in, because they are silver, they are dense, it is heavy metal of course. So there they're in, and you just slide it in like that, and then you just get him switched on and we're away. Now, before we do actually switch it on, temperatures. Now, there is a bit of debate out there. Some pour, well, not debate really, but pourers have different temperatures that they like to pour at. And for me, I think it all depends kind of what you're doing. It's got to be within a certain range, of course. But for me, what I found, my sweet spot at the moment is 140. As soon as 140, sorry, 1040. As soon as it hits 1040, I'm right, yes, we're going. Now, you can go to 1050, 60, you can go hotter, you can go slightly cooler. But for me, for the way I pour and the speed that I pour, 140 just seems to be the sweet spot. It's something you play about with as you're doing your casting, as you go on your silver casting journey. You get to, again, it's feel, you get to know. I mean, what I've noticed, if I do it too hot, the results aren't very good sometimes. It just doesn't look very good. And I think, for me, 140 is my way to go. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get the furnace turned on. It's just very easy. I'm not going to show you that. It's just a switch on the side, and it'll be, as soon as it comes up to temperature at 140, we'll have a look at doing the pour. Right, one more thing we need to do before we do the actual pour, and that's the preparation. Now, what we've got to do now, we've got to actually clamp up. We've got to use the clamps and clamp our flasks together, because if we don't, they might leave a bit of a gap, and when you pour in, the metal's going to push and you won't get a nice crisp impression, because when the metal goes in, obviously it's more space and it expands inside and it pushes. So what we want to do is keep the flask tightly shut together, and the way we do that is by using these things, clamps. Now, these are a bit big, but these are what I've been using and it's fine. In an ideal world, you'd have 2 pieces of wood put up either side, and you'd pop them both sides of the flask. You'd put a piece of wood there, and then you can just clamp away. But what I do, as you can see, we're just on the metal there, so let's open it up. As you can see, there's the impression, and we want to make sure it's clamped together nice and tight so we don't get no movement. Now, what you want to try and do is not push into the sand if you can help it, because you can break the interior of the impression. So we're just going to clamp it here or there. I like to go in the middle there, both sides, nice and tight, just to make sure we don't get no movement. Now, this is all I do. Just grab the clamp as you can see, it's pretty much just to get it in the right area, and then just squeeze it. Look at this side, that's okay, and then just get that clamped up, and you'll see it actually coming away. This side, I don't know whether you'll pick it up on camera, but see how it's come away, because that side, so it just shows you that a little bit of clamping does close these things up, and it is essential that you do that. You must clamp these cast iron ones together, otherwise it's just not going to work. So let's give it a good clamp. It's not as you don't have to worry as much with these type of ones, with the more of the jewelers ones, because these are a really tight fit. They're designed to go together very, very tightly, so you don't have to worry about it on them. But these cast iron ones, 100% get them clamped. That's that side done. I just spin it round, just the same process again. Just get it in the right place, in the middle, not on the sand, and clamp. And there we go. Now we've got the flask. That flask now is all prepared and it's ready for the pour. As soon as as soon as the furnace has come up to temperature, all we need to do then is to heat up the tongs, which I'll show you, and heat the top of the flask. Now, the reason why we heat the top of the flask and the tongs is, even though they feel dry to the touch, there's still going to be condensation in here because it's been very cold. And when you get the blowtorch on them, you'll see the condensation, you'll see the colour change. It just slowly goes down, and that's just the moisture coming out. What we don't want is to pick up the hot crucible with any moisture, because you might get steam explosions, and that's just disaster, isn't it? And the same with the top here. This is very, very cold. It's cast iron, so it keeps the cold. So you just give it a nice liberal blowtorching over the top, and you'll see the colour change. As soon as the colour's changed, you know, all the dampness, all the moisture's gone, and you're ready to pour. But I'll show you that when we get to it. We'll just go ahead. So now we're up to 677, so just over halfway, well, way over halfway now, so it shouldn't be too long until we get on with the pour section. Number 12, the pour and quench. Pouring molten silver into the mould and quenching it. Right then, folks, here we go. We're just coming ready to the pour for the pour now. So just a couple of things we've got to do. As I said, we've got to heat up the tongs and heat up the flask. The temperature on the furnace is 1040, so we're ready to go. So let's crack on with no further ado and get it poured. So I'll get the gloves on and let's get cracking. As you can see, the colour, you might not pick it up on camera, but I can see the colour's changing. So the condensation's going. So all the condensation's out of there. Let's do the tongs. Right, now we're good for the pour now. Now with the pour, you want to try and do it as quickly as you can, but in a controlled manner. So it's nice and quickly in. The quicker it goes in, the better. But obviously you've got to have a degree of control with it. So let's go. So we go. It's up. There you go. It's in, and you stop as soon as you see the sprue on the top. So there we go. It's in. Oh, did you enjoy that? That was cool, weren't it? Right, so we're just letting it go. We'll just let it cool down for a bit now. It won't take too long, and then we'll crack it open and we'll see what we've got. I'm just having a look inside. Yeah, it's nearly there. You can see, I can't really move the camera at the moment, but it's just almost solidified now. So I'm just going to check it. I've got the knife. I'm just going to give it a little. Can you hear that? So there we go, the sprue's all solidified. So what we'll do now, loosen off these, and you can see there's the smoke. As soon as you loosen it off, there we go. So now we've got the moment of truth. Let's see what we got. Oh yeah, that's the back of the bar. You're going to get a bit of smoke now on camera, but oh yeah, it looks like it's come out cool. The back's come out really cool. It's got all the areas. I was a bit worried about the thin part. What I'll do, I'll just move it out of the way and I'll get the quench bowl and we'll do the quench and we'll have a look at it. Just bear with me a second. Well, there we go, we've got the quench bowl there. We're a bit further away than normal. We've had to do a different camera setup, so let me just quickly pick him up. And there we go, we're going in for the quench now. Oh yeah. Listen to that. And the only reason we're quenching it, it's just so we can pick it up quicker. It doesn't do nothing to the metal. It doesn't make it harder. Like you see some people making knives and you have to quench those to make the steel harder. But with this, we don't have to do nothing like this. And I don't know if you're going to get it, but you're getting that bad boy. Right, I'll just give him a clean off and we can have a closer look at it. Take the glove off. Be a bit easier to hold. Oh guys and girls, so chuffed how that's come out. Looking really cool. Now because of all the lines, there's quite a lot of burnt sand in it, so you might have to get the toothbrush on it when I get back inside. But I think that's come out really cool. Let me see if I can get you a good shot in there. The light's a bit difficult in here, but we'll have a better look inside. But yeah, in that. Multi-skull bar. So that's the pour part. As you've seen, it was a nice and quick pour, but with control, and that's the end result. So what we'll do now, I'll show you how we take it from here, because obviously we've got to cut that off and we've got to finish the bar, make it look nice. Number 13, the clean-up. Removing excess material, sanding, filing and preparing the piece for cleaning. Right, now, so after we've done the pour, we've got this, as you've seen. You getting that? We've got to take this big sprue off, the big pour thing. Now, the best way to do that, I've found, lots of different ways. I like a hacksaw or a little jeweler's saw. I've got my hacksaw today here, so we're going to do that. But there's a couple of little spiky bits, so we'll just nip them off with just some tin snips. That's all what these are. So we'll just nip them off to start with, get them out of the way. There we go. And that one there, just so it doesn't catch on the saw when we're trying to do it. There we go. And now all we've got to do is get a nice clean cut, so we get a nice edge to the bar. Now what I like to do is put it in that way first, as you can see, and then just cut straight down vertically, and then I'll reposition it and go the other way. Let's get that in. Just grab the hacksaw. So there we go, the trusty hacksaw. I'm just going really slow, no rush. Just checking. Doing a bit more at that angle. You just got to start there. Now we'll turn it round. You can see, I think you might be able to pick that up. We've just got the gap started, and now we'll turn it round this way and we'll go across the other way. So we're always looking, we always want to get it as straight as we can. Now sometimes you can't get it dead close and you have to do quite a bit of filing afterwards, but it's not a problem as long as you pick all the dust up, because obviously we are losing silver here and it will mount up. So do bear that in mind. Don't just discard it, make sure you collect it, because I mean, if you watch some of my videos, you'll see I collect all my silver dust. There you go, a little jar in there is about 50-60 grams in there. So yeah, if you can imagine, when that jar's full, you've got quite a bit of weight, so always worth collecting. Ooh. There we go. And we'll just go again to stand up for this. There's no rush, it's nice and slow, get it right. There we go. Wouldn't normally do this much, but there you go. As you can see, we've cut the sprue off now. So all we've got to do, nip that little bit off and clean it up. And you can see here, quite a bit, a lot of weight in the sprue that we've cut off. And that'll just go back in the melt, back in the jar, to fight another day. So let's get our okay, I'll just collect it all up. I'm going to grab the jar. Now I'm not actually going to pour with this. What I'm actually going to, well, I am going to pour with it, but I'm not actually going to make it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pour it into a bar. Then that'll be taken to the refiners and get refined to make sure it's pure. Because you'll have other bits and pieces in there because it just sweeps off the desk. So you want to make sure it's pure. But that's what will happen to that. That'll go to the refiners and we'll get back the pure silver. So now, as you can see, still got some spiky bits on the side, some of the flashing where we've done the vent lines. If I just show you close up on that, you see the vent lines coming off the side there. We need to cut those off, some at the bottom, and obviously we need to tidy that bit on the top. So that just, now we just do little finesse work, just little clips and sanding and filing. You just take your time, very therapeutic. Well, I think so. Anyway, this is one of my enjoyable parts. I really like doing this. You just got to be a bit careful at the bottom because it's very thin at the bottom there. Very thin. Just want to nip off. Just feeling it as we go as well. Just going to feel to where we need to do a bit of filing, a bit of work. We file all the way around the outside anyhow, and sand. Let's have a look at this top here. There we go. So we've got a nice straight line there on the top. We just take that off. We'll file that back. Again, we collect all the pieces. None of this goes to waste. You all know silver's expensive nowadays. I'm sure there's enough videos out there that goes on about spot price. I'm not going to bore you with it. The end of the world, how it keeps changing. Eh? Right. So, time for some filing. Now, the files that I've got some little jeweler's files, and I've got a good old traditional. Got one of those. That's what I start with. Good old traditional one. And I've also got these little files, little jeweler's files, or whatever you want to call it. All different shapes, so depending on what you're doing. So today we're going to be using that one because it's just a rectangular bar, so it's just a flat edge one. And we'll be using this one. We'll start with this one to get rid of some of the stubborn bits, and especially where we cut the sprue off, we need to deal with that because that looks horrible, doesn't it? So we need to sort that. That's the priority. So the bottom's a bit more. That's the initial now. That feels a lot better now. No sharp edges now. So now we just get the little one just to finesse it. We can go along the front now where the sprue was. But it's getting there now when that's sanded, if you can see. I don't know if you can see very well on the camera. It's showing it. But we're getting there. It's starting to improve, to smooth. And there we have it. How cool is that? Right, so that's the sanding done. Now the next part, we'll be getting what finish we want onto it. Number 14, ultrasonic cleaning. Thoroughly cleaning the item to ensure it's ready for toning. We're now at this stage where we've got the bar, like you've just seen, all cleaned up. And in fact, I've done two, just to show you if you're getting that. See those? I've done two. They're exactly the same in all aspects. And now what we need to do now is make sure these are highly clean now, because obviously we've been filing, we've been sanding, we've casted them in the sand. So we've got to just make sure there's no debris. You can see at the bottom of these, still a little bit of black sand in there. So I want to get all the sand out. And also, like I've just said, we're filing with the iron files and whatever. We don't want any debris, any other metals on them, because at the end, we've got to get sent these off to get hallmarked, and they've got to be pure, because if there's any impurities or any contamination, they won't pass the test. So the way we do this, we clean them up by hand now. I'm going to get some soapy water and a tough brush, get all that done, and then we're going to pop them into an ultrasonic cleaner. And what the ultrasonic cleaner does, it just like sends, I'm not going to get too technical, I'll just pop some cleaner in it, some washing up liquid or some clear bright or anything like that, any type of metal cleaner in there with it. And then it like it heats it up and it vibrates and it sends like waves out, and it'll just take any of the surface dirt off. Almost like, the easiest way to explain it, almost like bubbles hitting the surface of the metal, and that'll get any little bits of common contamination, any little bits of dust off. So let's head over and have a look at the ultrasonic cleaner. So now we're going to get on with the ultrasonic cleaner. As you can see, we're over here. We've got a Roverson ultrasonic cleaner. Now it's only, I'll be totally honest, it's only a cheap thing. I got it off Amazon. There's a link below in my description to show you all the gear that I use. But it does what I need. It's only very small. It's got a little basket. Then you just pop your items in the basket. Make sure they're not touching. And then you just plop it in and let it do its thing. It's got timers on the front, temperature gauge here, the heater and the timers. And it's simple as that. I just normally do it 15, 20 minutes, something like that for a little basket full. You can get 4 or 5 bits in, as you can see. So there's our 2 skulls going in, our 2 multi-skulls. So what I'll do now, I'll just pop those in there like that. I'll just go and grab some washing up liquid, because I'm only going to use washing up liquid today. As you can see, I'm in the kitchen, so why not? Let's get some washing up liquid. And there we have it. We're just going to have a couple of squirts like that. I've got the kettle on to boil, and as soon as the kettle's boiled, we'll get it in and we'll start up the cleaner. So the kettle's boiled, washing up liquid's in. So now what we're going to do, first of all, I'm going to put the water in. So let's get the waters in. There you go. So that's filled up. Now I'm going to turn the heating part on. As you can see, the red lights come on. So I'm going to turn that up to 158. No, I don't go to maximum, 158. And now as you can hear, you can probably hear that. That's the heater going, so it's already starting to bubble. Now I'm actually going to turn it on. This is the timer, and we'll see how it goes. Normally I give it anywhere between 15 and 20 minutes. As soon as I do turn this, you're going to get lots of vibrations and it's going to get really, really noisy. So I'm not sure how this is going to transfer over to the camera, but you are going to get some noise. So I'm popping the lid on. Lid goes on, and on goes the timer. As you can see, there it is, it's up and running. So as the kettle boiled, I got myself a coffee. So I'll see you guys as soon as that's done in 20 minutes. Right then, for the miracle of time, it's just this second finished. Oh, that's hot. So let's get in there now and have a look and see how they've come out. Now you do have to watch because the top is very hot. I should be using a rag or something, but here we go. All right. Right, they're in there. As you can see, steam's coming off them. Let me just pop them on there for 1 sec. Yeah, they are really hot. Let me grab my rag. Actually, if I tip them. Oh, yeah. No. Just... There we go. I think you can get that. All nice and clean. And now they're ready to be toned or whatever we want to do. You could leave them raw like that, just cleaned, and they could go off to hallmarking and that'd be absolutely fine. But I think we're going to do some toning. I think because we've got two, I think we're going to have a little bit of fun. And next I'll show you how we get a good finish on them. Number 15, toning. Applying toning techniques and the materials to achieve the desired finish. So now we're going to get a finish or a patina on the bars. Now you can go lots of different ways. You can just leave them raw as they've come out the cleaner or the furnace, as it were, or you can antique them. You can heavily antique them. You can even put colours on them. And now I'm going to show you my process of how I do this. Now, because I've got two bars, I thought, well, why not? Let's do two different ways. I'm going to antique one, which basically means just to add an antique patina on it, so it makes it look old. So you got lots of dark places and lots of polished up places, so it's a good contrast. And I'm also going to try and do a coloured version. Now, to get both the coloured and the antiquing, it's a little bit of a process, but it's easy enough. And we got to use this stuff. It's called liver sulfur solution. Now I use this, and it's a gel that you can buy off Amazon or anywhere online. Really simple, but the thing is, it does really smell. It absolutely stinks. So I've got the windows open, I got the back door open, because if the missus was here, she'd go absolutely berserk at me doing it in the house here, but she's not here, so we're going to do it here. Oh, also for the coloured, sorry I forgot this, for the coloured pieces I'm going to try, I do add a little bit of an ingredient. I add some of this as well. This is a little secret ingredient. This is ammonia chloride powder. Now I put a little bit of that in to get more vibrant colours. What that does, it makes the colour more vibrant, and it just works a bit better than just the liver of sulphur on its own. But first I'm just going to do the liver of sulphur to do the antique one. Now the whole key to this, it's timing and temperature. That's all it is. And another thing, there's three things. You've got the temperature of the actual water you're putting it in, the solution. You've got the temperature of the bar, and you've got how long you leave it in for. Now, them three things will determine what finish you get on the bar. I think it's just best to show you rather than me trying to talk you through it. You can actually see, I'm going to leave it in real time so you can see it happening in front of our eyes. So the kettle's just finished boiling. So basically we've got really hot water. So we're starting with really hot water, and the bar is just come out the ultrasonic cleaner, so it's really, really hot as well. So we're going really hot on all things. So here we go. We're going to get the water in. Not too much, as you see. It's a flat bar, so you don't need too much. And obviously, because there's not that much water in, the solution is going to be stronger, so it should take quicker to turn the colour that we need. We're going for basically a real dark metal colour, black almost, and then we can polish it away and get, you know, that real nice antique vibe to it. So I'm going to put in 3. I always put in 3 blobs. So 1, 2, 3. There you have it. So let's just close that up. You don't want to get this stuff on your hands if you can help it, and try not to breathe it in. There you go. Let's just give it a little stir. Oh, and I should have said, in this tub next to it here, that's just washing up liquid and cold water. I mean, you can put, I'm trying to think, you can put something else in it to stop the chemical reaction. But basically, I just use really cold water and washing up liquid, and it works a treat. So let's grab the bar. So I just got it sitting in ultrasonic there, so it's nice and hot. Let's get that out of the way. I just use an old stainless steel spoon. Let's pick him up. Now I'm just going to go and give it a quick rinse under the tap to get any soap off it. Right, so we're good to go. So we're just going to pop it in and see what happens. There we go then. You ready for this? And it goes, and we're going to watch it in real time now. You can see it's starting to go around the edges. It's starting to go already. Oh, look at that. Look at that bad boy. Absolutely love this. Now what I'm going to do is quickly lift it up and show you. As you can see now, it's pretty much there. You got a little bit of iridescence, but it's gone. It's absolutely gone. Now that was because of the heat. Boiling hot water from the kettle. Really hot solution. Really hot bar. And that, as you see, that is pretty much done and ready to be polished back. So I'm going to take him out now. Just dip it in the cold one so I can pick it up with my hands. Yep. Now, I don't know which camera's probably, is this camera best? As you can see there, really, really dark. Pretty much a really dark grey black colour. So you can hardly see it now, but that'll give us a lovely antique effect when we polish it back. So that's the first one done. Right, so we're on to the next one now. This is going to be the colorized bar. Now, like I said, I'm going to be adding some of this to this one. So I've gloved up. Now really, you need to always wear some gloves and some eye protection when you're doing this, really. I've got my glasses on, so not probably the best, but you could do with a shield or your goggles. But all I'm going to do is take a teaspoon and we're going to add it to this, and you'll see that it goes a milky colour. So that'll do. So it's gone like a milky white colour. Now that's why I've got the gloves on, because obviously when I drop the bar in, I'm not going to be able to see what colour we're getting, so I need to be dipping it in and out. And sometimes with a spoon, it's really difficult to do that. You haven't got a lot of control. And it absolutely reeks, this stuff. Oh, absolutely reeks. But it's best to do it in ventilated area, obviously, and keep it all out the way of the kids and whatever. Right then, so here we go. Let's get this bar in. And we'll see if we can get a good colorized one. Now, I wouldn't normally tip it up and down. I'm just trying to leave some just so we can get the different colours, if I can show you. That's pretty cool. That was literally a quick douse, and I don't know whether you're going to get that, but you can see it's almost like a goldy colour. Just put it on this. Almost a goldy colour already with some darker areas. So we'll give it another dunk. There you go, get my fingers in. Oh wow. As you see there, I think you're getting that. So it's a little bit dark, I know, but as you can see the colours coming. And it just now, you just keep going until you get a colour that you like. I mean, that's really cool. I'm really liking this goldy coloured look. I mean, if you keep going and keep going, obviously you'll get to that eventually. All what we're doing is basically speeding up the toning process of the bar. That's all what these chemicals do. And you can get all these colours with these chemicals. It's just really, really cool. So let's have a look. And you know what? I think I'm liking that. Almost like a goldy iridescent. Maybe polish a little bit back. Let's see if I can move the light so you can... I don't know if you're going to get this. Maybe not. But... that's toning. So now, all we've got to do is do the polishing. Polish them up, and they'll be done. Number 16, polishing and finishing. Polishing the piece to bring out its final shine and details. So it's time to get them polished now. There they are. I'm not going to touch that one because I think that one is so cool. I just think the finish we've got on that, the colours on that, I just really like those. So that's just going to stay it is. That's pretty much the finish article. So we'll leave that there. This is the one we're going to work on. We're going to polish this back and get it a nice antique look. So basically what we're going to do is just, it's a very simple one, this. We're just going to lightly rub across, and any raised areas we're going to bring back to the nice silver colour. And obviously the lower parts are going to be more, will be left antiqued and dark, so we get a nice contrast, and it gives you that feeling of depth. The bar will feel thicker than it actually is, and that's the plan with this one. So what I use is this Gear silicone polish. You getting that? And again, pretty cheap for a big tub like this. This will last you, God knows how long. I've had this over 6 months. It's one of those things. It just depends how much you use, how much stuff you're doing. But a little goes a very long way. So let me just get that open. Dude, it's one of the best spoons, Sugar Cranky. Right. There we go. So and that's what it looks like. Just a pink paste, as it were, pink cream. Now, as I said, a little bit goes a long way. Now, this is the stage where you need to be a bit delicate because you don't want to rub it all off. If we go too mad, it just goes back to the silver bar, which is nothing wrong with that. Some people like a real shiny bar, but I think with this subject matter, we do need some antiquing. And I've got to be honest with you, I do like toning. It's something that punks come to really enjoy doing, and that kind of signifies the brand, the toned finish. So let's see how it goes. So we show very lightly. There you go. As you can see, just on the top of the skull on his forehead there, it's starting to come. And his hair, we want those. It is quite difficult with the light bouncing off because I've got the lights on to actually see, but oh yeah, guys. Now, if you did want to get in and get some details, you can use one of these, what do you call it, cotton bud, and you get in with one of those. But with this, I think we're just going to go for the cloth. We'll let the cloth do the work for us. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm so pleased with this one. I think we might be nearly there. Let's turn it over. I like to do the back because this is where the hallmark's going to go on the back, so we'll take quite a bit off the back. I like this rugged, rustic up to the back of the bars. There we go. I think we've got it right. So now once we've done that, we've got to give it a little bit of a Another shine. Now I use one of these yellow dusters. This is what I found is good for this. And you just give it, as you see how shiny that's gone. That just gets all the old polish off. If I do the back, you can be a bit more, you can give it a bit more teddy on the back because we want it more to come off. There we go, look at that bad boy. You getting that? Now that is what we've been going for. And that's all there is to it on the old clean up and polish. Now, obviously you go to what type of finish or patina you want. It's totally up to you. But those are two. I mean, I could polish that up in areas, but I just think, no, I think we'll leave that one like that because that's a nice toner. And we got the two. And that's the polishing. Number 17, the results. Having a look at what we come up with and getting ready for hallmarking. Here they are all finished. As you can see, that's a 3D print. And we end up with these two. And look how cool are those. I'm sure you'll agree. They're looking pretty cool. I mean, that's my favourite. I must admit, I think that's my favourite, the antiqued one. But I do love a bit of toning. Look, it's almost got a greeny, bronzy hue to it. If you look, some iridescent on the back. And that's the whole process. The only thing that's left now is to actually get these hallmarked. Now, what the hallmarking does, it goes off to the assay office, and the assay office will actually test the silver to make sure it's 3 nines fine, pure silver, basically. And they'll do their tests. And then what they'll do, they'll stamp it on the back as a guarantee, guaranteeing that it is the purity of silver that I've said it is. And now you just do that. So if you did wish to sell them, you can guarantee your seller that the seller knows exactly what they're getting. The buyer, sorry, knows exactly what they're getting. And it's also a legal requirement. If you do want to sell your silver art, you do have to get it hallmarked. So all there is to it now is to get it packed up and take it to the assay office. I hope you've enjoyed this run through. I know it has been a couple of hours, but that's the whole process, what I do to do my silver art and my silver pouring at home. And hopefully it might have inspired some of you guys and girls out there to give it a go yourself. I truly recommend it. It's just so much fun. I get so much excitement out of it. And as you can see, it's not that difficult. If you follow the processes, you can have so much fun with it, and the 3D printing, and it encompasses a lot of things. You've got like the artistic side to it, then you've got the 3D printing, you've got the actual silver pouring itself. So there's lots of little things you pick up and learn. It's so interesting. And as I say, that's what I've learned in the first year of silver pouring. I hope you'll find it, either entertaining or hopefully educational.